Yep, you read the title correctly. After 3 incredible years, it's finally time to say goodbye to the best company I ever got the pleasure of working for, Bad Marketing. Some of you guys might be confused about the company name since it did change pretty recently. I used to work at 4Media Marketing, and then we merged with another agency called the Heman Group, and we became Bad Marketing, which stands for bold and disruptive. And over the past 3 years, I was the creative director at 4Media. I had the honor of hiring 27 incredible team members, the privilege of working with over 150 brands in the e-commerce, SaaS, and info spaces. I got to coach hundreds of students in our coaching programs and courses, and ultimately growing to be one of the most respected agencies in the space. So in today's video, I'm going to take you guys back to the early days of 4Media, share a little more about what it actually meant to be the creative director during its rise, some of the biggest lessons I learned along the way, and ultimately share the truth behind why I'm actually leaving such an incredible company. So first, I want to paint a bit of a picture for you. It was October 2020. We're still in the midst of the whole thing that happened that year. And I had my first interview with Eddie Maalouf in their brand new office space that was still under construction. And a lot of you guys are probably pretty familiar with Eddie by now. He's got the Lambo, he's a family man with a house, a beautiful daughter with a second on the way, his amazing wife Terry, super successful, speaking on stages all around the world. But at the time, Eddie was living in a super modest 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs. No kids, no Lambo, no house. And to be honest, this was one of the first lessons that I learned from Eddie. I knew his business was relatively successful. I mean, there were plenty of other agency owners at our size that were flexing watches and driving the sickest cars and buying houses and all that stuff. But instead of trying to run the team remotely, like most of these guys were, and just, blowing his money on all this stuff, he was investing everything back into the business. Think about it. He was opening a physical office in 2020, employing a bunch of people. Like, obviously things were going well, but he was investing everything back into the business because he had a dream and a vision. And when I got to the office for the first time, it was cool that there actually was an office, but, there wasn't any cool decorations, no conference table, no LED signs, no, maybe 1 or 2 desks, literally some office chairs they had just built we were sitting on, and a case of water bottles in the corner of the room. And Eddie started painting the picture of what this place would look like. He said, we're going to build sets and have tons of places to shoot in a podcast studio. And we're going to fill this whole place up with desks. And, pretty soon we're going to get so packed in here that we're going to have to knock down the wall to connect to the space next door. And we're going to take over that space. And it all sounded so exciting. And, keep in mind, I think I was the 7th person to get hired in the office, maybe the 12th or 15th total hire, including our remote team members. And just to give you some perspective, now we have over 170 team members in 31 different countries. And some of those original team members in the Philippines are actually still at the company to this day. And some of them have even gotten 4Media and Bad Marketing tattoos. So anyways, I made the leap of faith. I'd known Eddie for about 7 years or so at that point, and I trusted his vision. And those first 8 or 9 months at 4Media were some of the craziest months of my life, dude. We accomplished so much just because we were so hungry and scrappy, and we were going to do whatever it took to get the job done. And before I get too ahead of myself, there's actually one person that I need to give a massive shout out to, and that is Eddie's wife, Terry. And she doesn't get enough recognition. You guys have no idea, but she's responsible for so much of the success and the culture of 4Media. And I just need to acknowledge that without her, so much of this would have never been possible. So anyways, as the creative director, not only am I responsible for creating conversion-focused ads for our clients, but I'm also responsible for the 4Media brand as a whole. So immediately, I knew that the brand needed a huge facelift. I redesigned the logo. The old logo was kind of funny. Made a whole new website for us. We started posting like crazy on our social media, and we started cranking out tons of content for our clients too. And looking back on some of those first shoots, we had no idea what we were doing. We were renting Airbnbs. We were, just super inefficient with the way we were going about videos and all this stuff. But luckily, I had the privilege of working with Josh Johnson from Hydra. Some of those calls were so valuable because he was able to give us a blueprint for dealing with clients and structuring our ClickUp and Monday boards and stuff like that. And in those first 8 or 9 months, we pretty much did everything that we said that we were going to do, including making an entire reality show based around our office, posting tons and tons of content on our social media, making content for Eddie, filming our own ads, filming client ads, took over the space next door, built out lifestyle sets to shoot in, started the 4Media podcast, hired a ton of amazing people, and it's absolutely crazy to see how much we accomplished in that first year. And that was the next biggest lesson that I learned, was just how much a small team can really do when everyone is focused on the same goal and aligned with a big vision. And I'm so grateful for those early days, because we all knew we were going to look back on those times when we were all sitting in one big room. Everyone was talking over each other. It was ridiculous. Eddie was sitting in the corner doing sales calls. It was ridiculous. And we all knew that we were going to look back and just say, those were the good old days. And they really were. So fast forward a couple months, and in late 2021, Eddie decides that he wants to throw an event for other agency owners to come together and learn from each other. And so then it was time to create a whole new brand, Agency Founders. And of course, me and my team were up to the challenge of making all that happen. Everything from the logo, the branding, wristbands, t-shirts, promo, banners, everything on top of our regular day-to-day jobs. And of course, it was a smashing success. And all of a sudden, we'd positioned ourselves as the go-to guys that other agencies wanted to learn from. And I got my first opportunity to speak on a big stage alongside some of my biggest inspirations in the marketing world, which was super cool. And I'm so grateful for those opportunities. And we kept grinding. So over the next couple of years, we got to work with some absolutely incredible brands. I'll share a few of my favorite projects we got to work on. I think I might make a whole video just dedicated to showcasing some of that stuff, because it honestly really deserves its own limelight. But just to name a few, we made ads for the launch of ClickFunnels 2.0, some insane animations-based ads for Canjo and Early Bird. We did some really fun ads for Player Court, Snow Oral Care, Gains in Bulk, and so many more clients that became friends, and so many incredible products that I still use even to this day. And the hard part for me, in full transparency, was letting go of control and letting my team execute without me, because the 4Media brand and reputation at a certain point was like my baby, and that was hard to trust them sometimes with certain aspects of the process, and let them make mistakes and learn from them. And instead, I would end up shouldering a lot of those responsibilities, and ultimately that led to me getting kind of burned out. And I'd had experience leading teams before, but like I said, at 4Media, I hired like 27 people. And unfortunately, leading a team also meant that I had to fire or let go like 8 people. And some of those were some of the hardest conversations in my life. And it really made me think twice about hiring, because of course you want to see the good in people and you want to see their potential. But after firing a few people, it really makes you think twice about bringing someone onto your team. And I'm grateful that I was able to learn those lessons and really understand how to hire and why it's so important to find those A players in your business. And those skills transfer over to so many areas in life. So there's one aspect of the story that I left out when I mentioned my interview process with Eddie. So I was at a point in my life where I was ready for a big change, and I really wanted to move to LA, Venice Beach in particular. And I pretty much told Eddie, I'm either going to take this job or I'm going to move to LA. And he told me, look, dude, we can build this. I need you to just promise me 2 years. You'll be making a lot more money. We'll grow this thing. And then you can decide if that's still what you want to do. Just give me 2 years. And I really took that to heart. I was like, okay, let's do this, And there was rarely a day where I didn't think about moving to Venice. I still have journals from those years where I was literally writing about my life in Venice, and I would write in my journal literally stuff like, Andrew lives in a beautiful home with a rooftop in Venice Beach. He rides his e-bike everywhere. He lives near his community of friends. He works out at Gold's Gym Venice. He attracts amazing people into his life, and he works with talented people on projects that are going to change the world. And, I would write it like it was already true. And in my head, it was true. I just needed to make it happen. So a little after the 2-year mark, I told Eddie, hey, dude, I still feel like I belong in Venice, and I'm going to go remote. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, since I'm still going to be running a team here in Georgia, but a few things happened. So number one, my team in Atlanta stepped up. And I'm so grateful to them for crushing all of our shoots, taking care of business, and all those like little things that I just wasn't able to do anymore because I wasn't there. And number two, it gave me a lot of perspective and empathy for my remote team members that I've been working with for years at this point in different time zones all over the world. And, you know, I'd be lying if I said that working East Coast hours on the West Coast was easy, but, you know, I got used to going to bed early and waking up early. And number three, pretty much everything I mentioned earlier came true. And I'm so grateful to my community of friends out here in Venice for welcoming me with open arms and, you know, really making me feel like home. So I got what I wanted. I'd successfully transitioned from in-person to remote. I was making good money. I was living in Venice. So why leave? And to be honest with you, I was pretty burned out on the execution side of things, you know, and I'd really felt like I'd accomplished everything that I'd set out to accomplish when I started at 4Media. And I also felt like from an agency standpoint, sometimes I wanted to go deeper with some of my clients that I really believed in, but you know, I had a lot of clients to deliver for. And sometimes I think those strategy calls that I had with my clients were more valuable than the actual deliverables sometimes, because I was able to help them think about their brand and content strategy in ways that, you know, maybe they hadn't considered before. And, you know, the last reason, well, I'll let Eddie tell you that one.
Too many people are sitting here saving up a few $1,000s, betting on these huge companies and corporations. And at the end of the day, you're forgetting to bet on yourself. And you are most likely neglecting that because of what the world is telling you that you can or cannot do. Same goes for getting the girl that you want. Same goes for getting the life that you want, starting the business that you want. Bet on your freaking self because no one else is gonna do it if you're not gonna do it. Put your money on the table and play the game.
Andrew has been at the top of innovation and content for the last decade, and I've seen it from the outside even before we worked together. He's been the forefront of our content team, how we do things a certain way, and a big part of our growth here at 4Media. I thought it was very important as a necessity for people to hear from him directly, because I preach content all the time, but it's different coming from the guy who actually does it for our team.
So what's next for Andrew? I think that's probably the big question on a lot of your minds, probably the main reason why a lot of you clicked on this video. And I will get to that, but I really just wanted to take a second to thank everyone that's worked on my team and put up with me as your boss over the years, because I know a lot of you are probably watching. So Gabriel, Junior, Zach, Joey, Carlo, Kathleen, AJ, Roland, Brian, Reed, Mike, Madison, Nate, Connor, Corbin, Jenny, Annalise, Carlos, Santiago, Camilla, Estefano, Chris, Skylar, Victor, Kara, Vanessa, Fonzie, Martine, and Aaron. I hope I didn't forget anybody, but thank you guys so much for believing in me and trusting me as a leader. I learned so much from you guys, and I couldn't have done this without you, literally. So thank you guys so much. And also, while we're here, shout out to my original 4Media office squad. I love you guys so much. I literally cried like a baby on my last day in the office when I was there to say goodbye in person to everybody. And on our last Zoom call, I cried like a baby too. Okay, now for the juicy stuff. So what am I actually doing? So number one, I'm open for consulting. Right now, I'm working with agencies and brands to help them build and scale their content teams, help them optimize their systems, get more clarity on what their team should actually be doing, watch videos and give critiques on content, and help them come up with new ideas and concepts for their organic or paid content. I'm also doing podcast consulting. So whether you have a podcast already or you want to start a podcast, I'll help you with getting your podcast to look and sound professional, gear selection, optimizing your workflow, building out a studio, how to really position your show to stand out amongst all the other hundreds of thousands of shows out there. And if you want to work with me or you want to book me to be on your podcast or speak at your next event, you can go to andrewdeitsch.com/contact. There should be a link down in the description for that as well. And lastly, I'm getting back into the podcast game myself, and you will be seeing a lot more of me this year. So stay tuned for that. All right, that's it. Eddie, Terry, everyone in the boardroom, thank you for trusting me to represent our company and build this team for the past 3 years. I'm so proud of everything we built together, and I'm so excited to see the future success of Bad Marketing. That's it for me. Thank you guys. See you guys in the next one.